got something new for the Bullitt, and this is something that I've been wanting for a long time. And obviously I stopped looking for it when I had sold the Bullitt, but then I was interested in getting one of these now that I have the Bullitt back, especially. And Ford Racing had made a reproduction of this item, but it wasn't the same as the Bullitt. And this is an actual first run blue and white box Bullitt fuel door. You've probably seen this on my brother's channel, and he got one of these too. He actually bought it after I bought this one. He came over and looked at this and he liked it so much he said, yeah, I better get one of those too while I can. And it's one of those things where you don't know how many are really out there. The Ford Racing ones are a little bit different and the part number is different, but this is the first run edition of these Bullitt fuel doors, and it has the older part number on it. And so this one is actually a nice polished aluminum on one side, and then it's chrome on the back side with the running pony on the inside and the Ford logo. And so I'll show you what that looks like, because they are pretty nice. I mean, this is different than the Ford Racing ones. See, there's the chrome side with the Ford and the running pony on it, and then this is the brushed side. So mine has this little crack there. It's kind of peeling, or the chrome's coming off on the other side too, just a little bit there on the hinge area. You see it's chipped away, and it's always been like that since I've owned it. So you can see it bubbling up on the inside. And honestly, I never even noticed this. Even getting gas and opening the fuel door, I don't really notice those imperfections. But it's one of those things where I wanted to get a new one while I could. And I was deciding whether I wanted to put the new one on the car or not. On one hand, this Bullitt fuel door that's on the car now is still perfectly functional, and it still looks really good if you don't look too closely at it. And so I don't really have a problem with using it. I mean, why take it off and throw it away? I would never throw it away anyway. You know, I might put it on the Yellow Mock one or do something with it, but I thought, well, I'll take it off at least for the meantime, and I'm going to clean up the hardware. Now, these little bolts are hard to find. They're Allen screws, Allen bolts, and they are hard to find. And there is a company that my friend on the Bullitt community had posted the information on where to get these, because if one of them comes out, you can't just go to the hardware store and get one. As a matter of fact, there is a guy on the Bullitt community named Chris, and he is a really great guy. I got to meet him at the Bullitt 50th anniversary show, and he's been into these cars for a very long time. I've talked to him on the forums over the years on iambach.com. That's the International Mustang Bullitt Owners Club. But anyway, he had posted this reference and said that this might be a source where you can get some of those Allen bolts. So if you have a Bullitt fuel door that's missing some of these, then you might want to check this reference. But they are very difficult to find, and some of them are very, very short and small, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So I decided what I wanted to do for now was take the Bullitt fuel door off and compare the part number on the back to the new one to make sure that they are identical, and as well clean up those Allen bolts, because I've done it before in the past and they got a little bit discolored. And so here you can see that they are very similar, but they actually are different than the ones that were on the car. You can see that the ones on the car had that pointed tip on the left there with no threads on it. And so they are slightly different, but it is the exact same stuff that comes on the car, and I believe they're the same size. T20 is what I used, but looking at them, they might be a little smaller. They might be a T15 on the new one, because that's what my brother had used in his video. But anyway, that's what they look like. So here, the new one on the left, the old one on the right. Here's the part number, and you can see they actually are identical. So those numbers do match. And the Ford Racing newer ones that don't have the chrome on the back do not match. These have the number 1 in the center, which I believe is for the year 2001. So supposedly these are both the exact same thing, although the hardware on these longer ones is different. Now there is a blue number there that doesn't appear on the old one, and maybe it's just worn off of the old one, but everything else looks identical on these. So it's really cool to have this. Now looking at this part too, you'll notice there's a spring in here, and that sometimes can get worn out or frozen up, and I'll show you what I'll do to work on that a little bit. I had to fix that one once before on mine. But as far as these little bolts go, I wanted to clean them up, and I was going to try a whole bunch of different things. Sometimes you can polish up this hardware with, ketchup, because the acid in the ketchup helps. And the bolts that are in the engine bay clean up very nicely with this, but I don't believe these are the same type of bolts. The ones in the engine bay might be zinc coated or something that shines up with the acid of ketchup. So I tried this for a little bit, but it didn't do anything. And so looking here at the new hardware, you can see it's not really polished anyway. It's just kind of a metal color on there. So it's not like we're going to go for a mirror finish look or anything like that. But I tried some mag aluminum polish. I tried all sorts of different things. But if you look at the fuel door, you can see, look how terrible these bolts look. They have just this kind of rusty oxidized look, and they're not rusted because there's no salt or anything around here, but when I bought the car I did sand these down and clean them up, and so that was the best approach, and that was what I ultimately am going to do here. But you can see how they look alright, but they just don't look very good on that fuel door. So here's what it looks like after sanding them. I just used some 220, something kind of coarse to get them cleaned up. I tried some stripper, I tried goof off. Look how small that little one is. See, that's a real small bolt. I tried the mag aluminum polish. None of that really worked, so sanding them was the way to go. I tried soaking them and everything, and that's just the best way. So you can see that's what they looked like when they were on the car, and that's how they look now. Very nice. They basically match the fuel door. So now here's a little comparison of what it looks like now and what the old ones looked like. So much better in my opinion. And now the whole door has just a nice clean look to it, nice bright look to it. Of course, it's not perfect, but it looks much better than it did. Now this fuel door, like I said, has a spring in here, and that can get frozen up or stuck. And before I had to do this where, you can see that little rubber stop moves in and out with the spring. And so I just put some WD-40 in that spring, and I tried doing that again now just to make sure that it stays in good condition, especially since it's off the car. It's a good time to service this little spring, and it's much easier now. But yeah, I had it where I'd open it and it stuck, the spring stuck shut like that, and so the door was just kind of flapping around, and I thought the whole door was ruined back then, but I was able to clean it up. So I did clean this up a little bit more, and you'll see I just keep cleaning it as I go because I can't stand having the fingerprints on it even though I'm working on it. But those tiny little Allen bolts on the top and bottom are fixed, and they have a little nut on the back, and so I wanted to put those back on and put some Loctite on them to make sure that they didn't go anywhere. So you can see top and bottom have those little blue Loctite just to make sure they stay in place, because I didn't want to lose these. Again, people have lost these and they've worried about getting replacement ones. People have bought all new fuel doors just to get the hardware, and the aftermarket ones don't have the same hardware either. And so I would stress about this actually, and I'd go make sure that these little bolts are tight. But I just wanted to make sure to do that. So that's another reason for taking this fuel door off. So I snugged those down pretty good. I didn't want to over tighten them and strip them, and so I just wanted to get them on there nice and snug and make sure that I had some Loctite on there, and that worked out nicely. So I was pretty happy with that, and the other hardware doesn't go on until you put it back on the car. So I took the Loctite out there with me to make sure to get it installed right. So while I was at it, I wanted to clean the fuel door area, the paint around the inner lip there, and then inside the fuel area there where the gas cap is, and just that whole little cavity, make sure it's cleaned up and nice. Just one of those little things that you do. And every time you work on the car, if you clean up that area and detail it a little bit, then you end up spending some good time cleaning up the whole car over time. Now things still get dusty and dirty over time, so it's not like the car will be completely clean at one point, but I really like cleaning up my cars and doing it as I go as well. So The longer bolts go on the side where the door is there, and the shorter ones go on this side. And the shorter ones are held in with those little black rubber U-shaped pieces. I'm pretty sure they're rubber. They might be, a black metal, but they hold to the body and they're kind of adjustable, and then they go in those bolt holes there. And so they're a little harder to get lined up, and you have to get those in first, and then you go back and get the longer ones later. So it was a little tedious, and as I was putting these in, I decided I should probably get some Loctite on these as well. Back and remove the smaller ones. You see how small those little guys are. I really don't want to lose those, so got some Loctite on them. And these, if you crank them down too hard, they kind of strip, and you just have to be very careful. You don't want to ruin these, and the Loctite helps too, so even doing them by hand helps. I went back and just used the tool by hand to get them in there nice and snug. And you just don't want to over tighten them, like I said, but at least the Loctite's on there to hold them in as well. And you can check these every time you go to get gas, but looks really good now. Very happy with the way it turned out. So I just finished putting in all of the bolts where they go and getting the door back on. And it's really fun to work on something like this. I really like this fuel door. I think it really makes the whole side of the Bullitt stand out, especially on the darker colors like blue and black and green that the Bullitt cars are. So I really love this, and whenever I take pictures of the car, I seem to always try to get the passenger side so you can see the Bullitt fuel door, because I'm so proud of it all the time. And people did ask me about the dent there on the quarter panel, and they asked me, so are you going to get that dent fixed or what? And I've always wanted to, and down the line maybe I will. I planned on doing that when I get the car repainted at some point if I do. But then over time, my plans seem to change as I put more money into my Terminators and my Mach 1s and buy more cars. It just, to me, doesn't seem like that good of a use of money to even give the car a whole new paint job when it's all original, and I really love the car for what it is. Now, one day, maybe I will. But when I bought this car back and I saw the dent there, it really brought back all the memories, and this really identified as my car to me. So that's just something that I kind of liked. I kind of got to the point where I thought, this is my Bullitt. There were other blue Bullitts I looked at when this car was sold, but I thought, no, this is my Bullitt. I want my blue one back. It would be hard to have a different blue one. So anyway, you can see how good that looks now. This is how nice the fuel door looks with the hardware cleaned up, and I think it looks great. So I'm very happy with it. So let's go hear the car for a little bit now. But anyway, just to get back to what I was saying about the car, when I bought this car back, I was very excited to get it, and it was nice to see it the way that I had left it. It was getting the car back that I had, the car that I had to give up, and everything about it was the way I left it. The paint was, the same way it was. The quarter panel had the dent in it. The fuel door had the imperfection. The dash had a little crack. The windshield had a crack on it. And all those things, yeah, I'd like to fix, and I probably should fix those in the future, and maybe I will. But there's a part of me that sees that as the originality of the car. Like they say, they're only original once. And this car, even though it has bumps and scrapes and scratches on it, it makes me think that, this is my car and I like it this way. And buying all my other cars, my Terminators and Mach 1s and stuff, I've spent money elsewhere where, a paint job's going to set you back several $1,000s, and I put that money into these other cars, which I think was a great idea. And so if this one needs to stay a little bit less perfect because of that, I'm okay with that. So I'm thinking about what I want to do about it. Now, there are people who say get a good PDR, paintless dent removal guy, to come in and pound out that quarter panel, and maybe I will do that too eventually. I'm just really happy to have the car back at this point because it was really hard to get rid of it, and just getting the car back, even if I don't do anything else to it again, is still a big deal for me. So I'm very happy with it, and we'll see what the future holds, but I'm slowly going to continue to clean it up and do some things to it here and there. So stay tuned for more of those updates. And if you haven't seen the whole story, I put the playlist at the end of all these updates of the cars, of each car, and all the videos I've made about it. And so this car has an incredible story. And so if you want to see all that, just follow the playlist at the end. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.